Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Guys, as funny as it is to say that this is a post-spawn video because while I'm sitting up here, we still have a little bit of snow on the ground and we still have ice on some of our local lakes. The fact is, a lot of the country is experiencing a very early post-spawn phase. There have been fish spawning in a lot of parts of the country now since like the end of February because it had been so warm. So I want to give you guys a post-spawn video, specifically my favorite areas to look for big post-spawn fish, both males and females. But the reality is the post-spawn period can be one of the toughest times to fish. But I can assure you that these four areas that I want to give you are some of the best areas and the most consistent areas to catch post-spawn bass, but realistically also give you a really good shot at catching a giant post-spawn bass. And at the same time, they can hold big pre-spawners too if there's some late pre-spawners that are moving in. So I want to walk you through these four areas, kind of give you the best presentation that I like to make around them as well that seem to generate the most bites. But before I get into that, I do want to remind you guys that I have a members only channel. And if that's something that interests you, some additional content from me, additional monthly videos, monthly live stream. And if you watch this last live stream, I probably said more than I should have. But the reality is the members get a little bit extra juice. So check that out, guys. Also, if you want to support the channel and you're looking to purchase tackle, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. You can also bookmark that link for future purchases so you don't have to remember about doing it to support the channel. All right, guys, so let's talk about the post spawn. The post spawn is one of those periods where a lot of times the fish are in a very lethargic phase. They are just tired, beaten up. They're not really all that uh, aggressive in terms of feeding. And because of that, it can make it a very difficult time to fish. But at the same time, if you know where to look, you can have some pretty decent fishing and you can have the opportunity at catching a really big post spawner. The problem with that is a 6 pound post spawn fish would probably have been a 7 to 8 pound pre spawn fish. So it's always a little depressing when you catch a big post spawn fish with a mouth like that and a length like that, and then they weigh like 3.5 pounds. But the reality is that's how most of those fish are going to weigh during the post spawn period. So let's talk about the four areas where I think you really have your best bet at catching one. The first area I want to talk about are going to be your secondary points as well as primary points. So your secondary points are going to be at the mouths of a lot of spawning pockets. Your primary points are going to be the main lake points. The issue here, or the reality here, is the fish are going from the backs of the pockets where they spawned. They're going to work their way out to the secondary points, and then they're going to work their way out towards the main lake as the water continues to warm. So that's where your primary points start to come into play here. But regardless, the points are a huge stopping ground for those post spawn fish. It's also one of the first places where I feel like they truly start putting the feed bags back on. One of my favorite baits or favorite presentations to fish primary and secondary points during the post spawn is a Carolina rig with like a small baby brush hog or even just a soft stick bait like the Max Scent General, something that isn't giant in size, but also provides them with a good meal, if that makes sense. But a Carolina rig is a very slow presentation that just gets the fish to bite. It's something that keeps the bait in front of their face, and the fish that are relatively lethargic will still bite a Carolina rig. So I love to fish primary and secondary points with them. The second place that I'm going to look for are shallow ledges, and specifically ledges that have shell bars or gravel bars on top. Generally speaking, these are going to be in like 8 foot of water or less. I feel like a lot of times the post spawn fish that have been up in a couple of feet of water spawning are going to stay relatively shallow, regardless of whether they're on the bank or offshore. They're going to stay relatively shallow, generally in that 8 foot of water or less, until the water temperatures start getting to the point where they just start going deeper to find cooler water temps. But a lot of times, this shallow water could be a shallow bar or a hump that's a quarter mile or a half mile offshore. So don't mistake when I say shallow for the bank. It does not have to be the bank. It just is shallow water depth. But a lot of times, especially if you're talking about fishing lakes that have some current that go through it, the TVA lakes, the Mississippi River falls into this category. A lot of times, those post spawn bass, specifically the females, will get out on these shallow shell bars, shallow gravel bars. They're basically shallow ledges. So you're going to have deep water nearby, but there's going to be a top of it that tops out 4 or 5 foot of water. And a lot of times those big females are going to cruise those looking for a larger meal like a gizzard shad. It's just simply they don't want to expel a ton of energy, but when they can get one good meal, they're done for like the week. They don't need to feed anymore. And it seems like those shallow bars, those shallow ledges, are one of the first places that the big females start showing up again. And it truly is one of the first places where they're starting to get aggressive to start feeding. So some of my favorite baits to fish on those are square bills, baits that are going to run in that 4 to 6 foot range. Also big topwater baits. Big walking baits can be really good on top of the shallow bars if you've got the right conditions. If you've got a bunch of, big waves crashing up over the bars, topwater is not going to be the bait you want to throw. But the reality is if you have a good day for a topwater bite, the topwater on shallow bars can really be a great place to fish. The next one that I'm going to be targeting are docks. A lot of times, the same docks that those pre spawn bass are using are going to be the same docks the post spawners are using. So, if you're on a lake that has a lot of docks, the docks are not only stopping grounds as they move back into the creek, they're also stopping grounds for the same fish that have spawned and they're working their way deeper. The one thing I've noticed over the years, though, is a lot of times the pre spawners on the docks will be deeper but the post spawners will be higher up. So a lot of times on these lakes, you'll actually see them sunning themselves. It's almost like they've come off the bed, they've just swum over to a dock, and they're just suspended there. They can be very difficult fish to catch, but a lot of times this is where your big females are going to be after they're done spawning. So the docks, the first couple docks on the way back out of a pocket are going to be your best. Docks that are nearest to a channel swing bank are going to be some of the best ones, and docks that have like a rock transition or brush piles near them are also going to be very good. One of the best baits, in my opinion, that you can throw at the dock at this time of year is a weightless wacky rig. I love that Maxent General. Just something that will stay up and slowly float down, stays in the strike zone long enough. And again, these fish are recovering from the spawn, so they don't have a ton of energy, but a weightless wacky rig presents such an easy meal that it's a really good bait to get these fish to bite. The last place I'm going to be looking, and this is a lot of times more on your natural lakes or lakes that are much flatter, is any isolated shallow target. So this could be a single isolated dock. It could be a single raft. It could be a lay down tree. It could be a stump. Basically, any isolated target that's by itself, which again was a good location for pre-spawn fish, is going to act as a good stopping ground for a post-spawn fish as they're working their way back out towards deeper water. Not only that, it also presents a good opportunity where a lot of the fish that have done spawning are going to be guarding fry. A lot of times those fish, as they guard fry, they'll push the fry up towards a piece of cover to protect the fry. And therefore, not only is it a good place to catch a female moving out, it's a good place to catch a male that might be guarding some fry. So in that case, some of my favorite baits is a topwater. A topwater around an isolated target, a shallow isolated target, is one of the best baits to trigger those fish into striking. It could be a popper, it could be a prop bait, it could even be like a walking bait or a buzz bait. The reality here is a lot of times these fish again are lethargic or not aggressively feeding, but aggressively protecting fry, and a topwater bait just gives them a different profile where they don't get a great look at it, and therefore they're willing to bite that better than they are some other subsurface baits. But guys, I'm telling you, the post spawn period is one of the toughest times to fish. But these 4 areas I just gave you are, generally speaking, the best areas to catch post-spawn bass. Hopefully this helps you. If you live in one of the parts of the country right now that has post-spawn fishing going on, don't be afraid to stop on any of these. If you live up north where I do right now, we're getting ready for the pre-spawn, but we'll be fishing the post-spawn in probably about a month. So don't forget these 4 locations. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.